Hello everyone and welcome to this new podcast, Fruit for Thought 2. I'm joined by Kawub today and we've got the Canadian TWC team. So hey guys and welcome.
Oh,
Hey.
Very much excited as you can hear. We've got Janitor Hill and Vladyushko and we'll be talking to them about CWC, its course and their experiences so far. Next to that, I've also talked to Nido King from America, and we'll be discussing the things he pointed out of this tournament. So let's just get started. So, to all of you, how did you get into Taiko?
Alright, I guess I'm starting then. I actually started playing it quite a long time ago before I actually discovered OS. I played the Wii version of the original Japanese game, and it kind of just spiraled off of there. And then I discovered like this blog post about different Taiko emulators, and there was Taiko Jiro, all those things, and there was also OS. And I couldn't get Taiko Jiro to work, so that's how I ended up here, I guess.
All right.
Vlad, do you want to go next for me?
You next.
Alright, well, unlike Janitor, I never came from any other Taiko-based game. I just one day randomly found OS. I don't know if it was on YouTube or Twitch or something, or I just one day found it, downloaded it, played it for a bit. I mostly played Standard at first, but then Standard was a little too hard for me. So then I tried Catch the Beat, same thing, same issue, was a little too hard for me. Switched to Taiko, and then I just clicked with Taiko, and I've been playing ever since. Been 7 years now. Been quite a while.
Wow. Shit. And for Vladyushko?
Yeah.
When I first discovered Osu, I'm not really sure how I stumbled upon it, but for the first few days, I kept switching between Standard and Taiko, and eventually I realized I was getting better at Taiko, so I stuck with that.
Yeah, that does
Alright, I see. Seems logical. And about TWC, have you guys participated before? Is this your first time in TWC?
I guess I'll start again. I actually started playing in the Taiko World Cup in 2015, although I'm not sure if anyone actually remembers that from that time, because I was only there for 2 matches because I was gone on vacation for like the first half of the tournament. I was also in 2016 where we got 3rd, and well, now we're in 2017. So in total, I've been in 3 Taiko World Cups.
Same
Yes.
as for me, except mine was between 2011, I think was when I first joined, till 2013, and then between 2014 to 2016, I had issues signing up, I guess. Don't know exactly what reasons for it. Maybe they thought I was multi-accounting or something because of my brother. But this is the first time I've been back in Taiko World Cup since 2013.
Glad to have you back.
Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah, this is my second for Taiko World Cup.
So I was wondering, Canada's been improving a lot on the ranking ladders. So how do you guys think about that? Like we almost had 2 Canadians in the top 50, which was Janitorial and I think Tasha, was it? Janitorial got into top 50 and he sat there, and I was wondering if he's gonna climb higher, and then Tasha was also gonna make it in there. But do you guys think that you could all make it into top 50 like you 3?
Oh well, probably. But
By
it's
Grand PP maps.
yeah, there's a lot of new PP maps in Taiko, and it just so happens that the type of maps that are getting ranked are also the kinds that I happen to be good at. So that's probably why I've been climbing them a lot lately.
Yeah, a lot of the maps are PP inflated just because of the patterns. They're not necessarily hard, but they're just really easy to hit in free PP.
Yeah, and also because a lot of them are more of accuracy maps with higher OD that are worth more with Hard Rock too, which it benefits me, I guess.
But there's some potential I can hear, definitely.
Yeah, I definitely expect Tasha to probably break through to top 50 sometime soon. Vlad too, probably Fudgy if he gets more active.
I just want to break top 100.
You'll get there, man. You'll get there.
I want to be back in the olden days where I was top 50. That was good old days.
Was that PPV1?
I think so. I think it was like score-based PP.
Oh, that's sick.
So talking about the TWC, you've surpassed the group stage. Not quite sure how your matches went, but a lot of them were clean sweeps, so I'm just assuming yours were too. And what was your experience so far? Just your general experience in the TWC organization, maps and such.
Maps have been a little annoying because of the difficulty spike.
Yeah, that's definitely
Other
true.
than that, there's some maps in the pool that are kind of fun to play. Others are a little bit more challenging. No, not for Janitor. Janitor can just hit everything because he's Janitor.
No, no.
What do you mean, no? You hit see like most of the maps. Quiet you.
Generally, I haven't really had any trouble with staff. Well, it's probably because I don't really talk that much with staff, but it's generally been fine for the most part. Yeah, the map pools are kind of iffy this year, but I'm hoping that might change in the later rounds, maybe.
There hasn't been really a lot of change in the round of 16 anyway. Still very much difficult as opposed to the previous year.
Yeah, it's really weird.
I wanted to get Vladyushko's opinion on what his experience was so far in the tournament.
It was, well, some of the maps I can't play, of course, HD because I'm just garbage. But overall, I don't think so far the maps haven't been that bad. But I'm scared of the later pools, definitely.
Yeah, it's getting scary.
Well, I know that the group stage was a bunch of 1-6 maps, right? And now it looks like the round of 16 is just a bunch of SV maps. How do you feel about that?
It's
A weird change, at least, to go from like a map that's. To be honest, SV changes are more of memorization than anything. They're not necessarily hard. If you can memorize what the patterns are like, then you just have to remember what the patterns will be when they come up, and then you can hit them easily.
Yeah, I'm more surprised that wasn't swapped around because in group stage you have a lot of lower seed teams who can't really hit the 1-6 because they're just too difficult. But SV maps are usually easier to hit. It's just that you have to be able to memorize all the SV changes, and it just seems a bit odd to make 1/6 the flavor of the month for the group stages instead.
Alrighty, so the next few things are topics that really came up when I was talking to Nidoking, let's just say. First of all, I noticed myself that there's only 24 teams that turned up this year once again. I've heard that there were 29 signups, whereas five teams were cut out because of a lack of players in that regard. Is this a normal thing to happen in TWC, or does it seem to be happening more in these recent years? Maybe due to Japan's dominance in the tournament, always winning so far?
I think it's been 24 for a while, hasn't it? It was 24 last year and the year before that. It's around the same amount of teams that are signing up, I think. But I think there are actually more players signing up. It might be. I'm not sure about that, though.
I think it's just based off the maps, to be honest. A lot of teams are quitting because things get too difficult for them. They don't want to struggle.
Quitting as
Especially-
in till this day? Sorry for interrupting there, but are there teams that actually quit in the group, say, because of these maps being too hard? Just,
I don't know if any
Um,
teams quit because of it, but I'm pretty sure a lot of players didn't want to sign up because, well, Score V2 is also a thing. A lot of players didn't want to play with Score V2 because they felt it was dumb
in what regard,
and
dumb?
unneeded. Pardon?
In what regard was it dumb then? As in what
Well,
kind of changes
like
does it have as opposed to one?
before the changes, they used to have finishers and sliders. You had to fully hit a finisher in order for it to score points, or else you would combo break. And in Score V2, combo is kind of a big thing, as well as accuracy. And if you didn't hit the sliders, I think it was 35% or 40% of the slider, you would also
30%.
you would also combo break as well. And a lot of the maps, well, some of the maps in the pool were finisher spam, and if they didn't make that change, then a lot of the players who are lower seeded would definitely struggle more than the higher seeded players.
I see.
Yeah, there were two main changes which people weren't happy about. And that was the finisher misses, which is what was mentioned earlier. With the if you did not hit a finisher perfectly with both keys, it would lead to a combo break. And the second was the HP change, which made the HP system from its original more like the Mania system, where it was kind of a more of a constant drain, and instead of having starting at 0 and working your way up to like 50 something percent, it would start at 100 and it would go down if you missed. The second, both were actually reverted, so
Thankfully.
yeah, thankfully reverted. Because otherwise, with the current tiebreaker, probably most people would fail it.
Alright, seemingly Caleb is silent right now. About China in the group stage, one thing I heard from Nidoking is that they got disqualified due to a cheating player mid-group stage, in the middle of a match. How did that go and end up?
Oh, I didn't know that was what they were disqualified for. I thought they didn't show up. But I remember, was it last year where the UK had a player who was actually taken off the roster right before group stages started or something because they got banned? I think that happened last year.
I wouldn't know, but all I heard from Nido was there was this guy actually actively cheating in the middle of the match and got disqualified. In the match against Poland there was, due to the cheating of course, and the team was immediately kicked off of the tournament, having 2 default losses. But I do seem that it isn't really known to every player, as you guys aren't really too sure whether that was the case indeed.
Yeah, I didn't know what. I didn't know that happened, to be honest.
Ah, okay. Well then, I guess that's open for discussion then, but that's just all the things I heard from Nido here. I myself didn't follow it previous weekend, I was too busy with other stuff there, politics especially, but that's not what we're here for, so definitely not gonna be...
I know that I actually watched the stream. I know they said that China didn't show up for their match, so I don't actually know how true a player being banned is, because I just checked the roster. Unless he was taken off the roster on the wiki, none of the players are actually banned. So
No, he
I
was
don't
taken
know.
off the wiki because he was. I think I don't remember exactly what his name is. I think he had like unsigned something. I don't know if it was like unsigned _ enter or something like that. But he was banned for, I don't know exactly what kind of cheating. I just know he had a bunch of impressive plays from 7 months ago, and then was recently inactive, and then suddenly shows up in Taiko World Cup and is doing good. And then I guess he got caught cheating and then removed, which is probably why China didn't show up for most of their matches.
Oh, I was not aware of that.
Okay.
Yeah, you gotta give it up to them, though. I guess it's pretty ballsy to be cheating during a World Cup where it's streamed to like hundreds of viewers.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I found that weird as well. The fact that they didn't get caught for that earlier. But yeah. I guess that's up to discussion then. Seems that not everybody is telling the exact same story, but in any regard, it did create a little bit of a bad taste in most of the Taiko players' mouths, I assume. As to China. But yeah. Well, there's also new commentators I've noticed in the roster for the staff members. Previous years, for most of the game modes next to OC Standard, the commentators were mainly the global moderators who usually do the commentating. Now I've seen that there's a few people who actually play Taiko a lot, commentating the matches as well. Is the stream any better because of it? Did you notice any kind of change? Is it more interesting, let's just say?
Oh, well, it's always nice to have player commentators on, especially when they're actually in the tournament, because then they've already played the pools and they can get more in-depth commentary about the actual maps, maybe any places where players might miss and stuff. And yeah, I think player commentators are, in general, probably just better for the viewing experience.
Especially newer ones, it provides like a fresh feeling, so you don't get like the same commentators, because you can tell after years of same commentators what they'll say, how they'll act to certain scenarios. Whereas bringing in new commentators, it'll provide a whole new experience for people.
All right. Quickly interrupting. I see that somebody called Rama is in the general chat now. Is it one of your team members or?
Yeah,
Oh,
Steven
yeah,
Rama.
yeah.
I'm quickly gonna give him the role podcast guest. Quickly inviting him to the channel. Didn't quite notice him up until now.
He must have just joined.
Yeah, I guess. Let's quickly get him in then.
You can always use more people in here.
The more, the merrier.
Of course, of course. Hey, Rama. We're actually in the midst of recording already, so I welcome you. Are you doing well? I'm not quite sure if it's your sound cutting out, but I can't quite hear you, even though it says that you're talking.
Which
right
one?
now. For Rama.
I think it's background noise.
Was it me?
I
or-
assume- Yeah, it was you, but
Oh.
I guess it's alright.
Never mind. Sorry, I thought you were. I thought you were talking to someone else because the connection thing, whatever. I'm doing fine.
Great. What was your experience with the TWC so far?
It's been nice. We've had our first match. Yuno and I we did our best as we possibly could. Honestly, in our opinion, we probably could have done better, but we're happy that we got to play. So, we've been playing strong so far as I'm concerned.
Glad to know.
Not
Glad to know. Anyway, since we're already in the middle of the podcast, I'm just quickly gonna go to the next question. These are questions that pretty much came up when I had a conversation with Nidoking. I'll just quickly explain to you because I'm gonna try to talk to him every week, and he's telling me how the TWC is really going, the way it flows. Because I myself am a catch to beat player, so I'm not too experienced with Taiko, let's just say.
All
But
right, that's
yeah.
not a problem.
Yeah, I hope it isn't. But yeah, he pointed out that there's also some steep possible competition coming from you guys as well as Hong Kong. Do you guys have, sorry to ask, but do you guys have any chance against Japan in these
No,
rounds?
absolutely not.
I don't think
I
many
mean-
teams.
Okay, well, to be completely fair, does anybody have a shot against Japan is the first question. But
Yeah.
I think the one that comes after that is who. And from what I've seen, as far as North America and South America are concerned, I think, and please don't take this as me tooting our own horn, but I think Canada would probably have the best bet out of all of us, just based on our history and based on the players that we have. Just we'd probably have the best bet out of everyone on that side of the world. But I don't know. We could probably take a couple points like we did last year, but I highly doubt we could win.
Well, I know last year that you guys were one of the only teams to take a point off of Japan, actually, and that was in, I think, what was that? That was the quarterfinals?
That was finals.
Oh, that
Yeah,
was
that was
that was finals. And so do you guys think you can do well against Japan? I mean, you guys are saying that you guys can't beat Japan, but do you think you'll do well in terms of it?
We're definitely gonna fight for it, obviously. But okay. So if you compare the match between Japan and Canada to the match between Taiwan and Canada, was it round of 16, Jan?
Round of 16 and also finals. I don't know which one.
The round of 16 one is what I'm referring to. So
Oh,
the
the
one
5-0?
where we quote clean sweeped, the records say 5-0, right? But if you look closely at how close those matches actually were, you could tell that they were really close, and they could have taken any one of those points. So, it's the exact same sort of thing. But the match between Canada and Japan, we were trying our absolute best, and honestly, it comes down to whoever chokes. So,
It's also a bit of because this year the map pools are getting so much harder, and Japan only gets better when the map pools are harder. Because you've probably seen their team, which is basically the top 6 global players inside of one team. And if the map pools just keep on scaling like this, then I'm not sure if anyone will have a chance to even take a point off them at this rate.
So on the topic of rankings and the whole first, second, third place, do you guys think it's going to be second and third? Since I'm going to assume you guys are going to put Japan as first.
It kind of depends on how the brackets go, because the way the brackets are right now is weird, because you have Hong Kong, Canada, Taiwan, and South Korea on one side of the brackets, which are arguably the second strongest teams below Japan. But you also have much more steep competition coming from some of those same teams as well. So I think it's difficult to say. I'd like to say Canada will be second because, of my own personal bias, but I'm not sure because all the other teams have gone so much stronger since last year.
The bracket plays a huge role into how teams are seeded and how their path ends up. Because Canada was on the one side last year, and the only major people that we were afraid of were Taiwan and Germany. Was it Germany, right?
Yeah, that's Germany. There's also the US.
Right. But every one of those teams that everyone fears was on the opposite side of the bracket, and we would have only had to worry about them when we got to finals, which is exactly what happened.
Yeah, we had a free ride to finals last year solely because we weren't on the same side of the bracket as Japan. And now on the other side of the bracket, which doesn't have Japan, is Taiwan, who basically have a free ride to at least third. So basically whenever you're in like Taiko World Cup, you just have to hope that you're not on the same side of the bracket as Japan. And
that's not to say it's impossible for us to climb back to finals, but it has to do with almost Jan was joking about how he accidentally got an SS in one of the group stage ones, and we ended up getting seated on the same side. That's kind of what happens.
It's just look in your favor if you don't get, bracketed with Japan for most of the tournament, so you won't be getting into the losers bracket ASAP. Let's just say. I assume.
Yeah, basically.
So
Also,
I wanna. Oh, sorry.
Oh,
you can
no,
go.
sorry, you're going.
See, this is what sucks about having so
Welcome
many
to
Canadians
Canada.
in one call. So, I was gonna quote what Nido King said. He was going through the top 3 of what he said, and he said Canada and Hong Kong improved so much since last year that he placed Japan first, Canada second, then Hong Kong third. Do you agree with this or not?
I mean, Hong Kong has recently gotten quite a few really strong players, like Singh, who is basically an accuracy monster. And I'd like to, no personal bias here, assuredly, but Canada has also improved a lot, our players, since our roster is actually around the same as last year. But all of our players have basically improved, except for Fudgy, who was basically gone for like half the year, so you can't really blame for that.
Koff took him 2 weeks to get back to his skill. Koff.
Yeah, and no one is surprised. But on the other hand, I think that Taiwan also, even though they might not have necessarily improved from last year, well, that's not true because they got Stu back this year. It's probably one of the strongest tournament players in the world currently. So I think Taiwan is also definitely a contender for top 3, and probably one of the scariest teams, definitely, aside from Japan.
Does seem there's some food for interesting matches coming in soon then, between those teams you just mentioned. So that's a great thing to hear. Well, and any worries for you upcoming in the next few rounds, as you can now see the brackets and who you're up against? Or at least...
I'm kind of waiting for Jan here.
So wait, what about the brackets?
Any upcoming teams you're pretty afraid of, or is everything going chill up until like the finals?
Oh, well, the thing is that there are a lot of scary teams on our side of the bracket, but Japan deals with most of them. Like Japan faced Hong Kong in like quarterfinals-ish. And it's not like I don't have any faith in Hong Kong, it's just that Japan is so ridiculously strong this year that I don't think Hong Kong would be able to beat them. Maybe take a few points off them, but Japan is just ridiculously strong this year. Other than that, we also are likely facing South Korea in the next round, and that will definitely be interesting because they also have a lot of strong players on the roster.
I actually wanted to get Stephen Rama's point of view on how the maps are going. Like, from the giant star rating jump from last year to this year, and how group stages and round of 16 now.
So if someone could server deafen because he absolutely hates my opinion on this, and if he gets a chance, he'll probably strangle me to death.
I can get that fixed for you.
Okay, so this is everyone jokes about, and there's very good evidence to prove as to why this is, but everyone jokes about how the new map pool is basically wiping everyone off the board who's not top seed. And honestly, in my opinion, if you look at the way that the maps themselves are structured, it is the most brilliant tournament map pool I've seen in a while. Because some of the maps, the way that they're set in terms of mods, they have certain gimmicks to them that require people to really train very specific sides of them. So hidden map pools like to do low scroll speed, which is the notes go slower on the screen, right? But if you do hidden, that covers up half the side of your screen. So you're really, really trying to memorize or guess or have a feel for where the notes are. And hidden slow scroll speed is one of those really rare skills, and you're seeing it a lot more in tournaments lately. That's just one side of the bracket, though, because you have bracket, but you get the idea. But that sort of thought process has been placed in Hard Rock. It's been placed in Free Mod especially, and No Mod is doing a lot more gimmicks with their 1/6 placements and the style of maps that they're doing. The different scroll speed changes have been coming into play, and it really changes up how the game is played overall and how the team members have to change their play styles and strategize when fighting opponents.
So I wanted to bring up again. So Janitorial said that he thought that the group stage and round of 16 should have been switched a bit because lower seeding teams had troubles on 1/6 patterns, and whereas SV changes could have been memorized instead. So he thinks that that it should have been flipped.
I'm definitely willing to agree with that. The thing is, honestly, what they could have done, in my opinion, was knock off a couple stars on the difficulty, or at least like cut down on the difficulty overall just a tiny bit, but keep the genius level design that they had, because it was very different from what I'm used to. For like anyone else can agree that the style of the maps, not just the difficulty, the style of the maps have changed since last year. It's very, very different and very gimmicky, but I like what they're doing. So that's what I'm just saying. I think it's very tournament based. So
Yeah, like
the
it-
Lord,
Oh no, go on. I'm interrupting.
I'm not doing the Canadian thing. You go. I am doing the shit.
You can't escape it. You can't escape it.
So who's going? You or me?
You can go. You can go.
Like I just said, like you take a couple notches off the difficulty just to complement the lower seeded players, because nobody wants to walk into a tournament and just get absolutely stomped, right? If you have a little bit of a chance, like I mean the lowest teams, the lowest skilled teams, no offense to any of them, they're all putting out their best effort and I congratulate them on it. But the lowest skilled players, obviously they're not going to get into bracket, but they should feel as though they have a chance in group stage. And I think that's how everyone else feels. That's not to say that the difficulty change is bad. I mean, it is necessary to an extent, but what we have right now is kind of the bladed edge of the knife.
So, with this difficulty change, do you think they did this because they finally let you into the, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but, or YU68? Do you think they did this difficulty change because they let him in the tournament, or what?
Sometimes I feel like because we've had the same map pool selectors for a while. Like Ono has been here since like a really long time, at least 2015 from what I can remember, and probably way before that. And the slow hidden has basically been a staple of his for a while, so I can't say stuff like Slit would be unexpected because he really loves the slow hidden maps. But I think that sometimes it does feel like, it does feel like the map pool selectors are a bit jaded, and that they're trying to base it on the top performing team, because this map pool is really good for one team in particular, and that is Japan, which is by far the strongest team in the tournament. And the pool now that we have is also going to be really strong for, you guessed it, Japan. And I can't help but feel like they are kind of shifting the difficulty because of how strong some of the teams have gotten, namely Japan. But I'm not sure if that's necessarily the right direction to take, because even though you have someone like Yuan who can SS the tiebreaker while playing pretty much all the finishers, most of the people, even in the other top seed teams, really can't do that. So I think it's not really a good idea to do something like that.
Oh, sorry. You go. You go ahead.
Damn it.
We did it again!
Well, if you pay attention to a very specific match, it was the rematch between Canada and Taiwan last year, but during the tiebreaker, and I don't know why I remember this quote, but it seems really relevant now. Z-Trot mentioned he had a conversation with Sand, and Sand was talking to them saying, we seriously need stronger maps and harder maps, right? And at the time, Sand was currently SSing, no, he wasn't SSing. He was FCing, one of the only ones to FC Apparition. And honestly, if Sayaka and Ono were watching at the time, I feel like they were thinking, okay. Boom. 3 extra stars on your difficulty.
And
there you go, bud.
TWC 2017. Yeah, okay, I see. But as Janitor just mentioned, it does seem that the maps are currently based off of Japan's performances. Is this really becoming a problem for the TWC, the way that Japan is actually dominating? And is there any kind of fix to it to maybe reorganize and, I don't know, like restructure the World Championships from Taiko to be something non-country based or anything? Like any kind of very big major changes to be made to this?
You're me. I meant Jan.
I'm pretty sure the way it is now, there's not really any way to fix it other than literally banning Japan from the tournament, which, well, no one wants that, because in the end, the World Cup is a place for the best teams and best players to perform and put up their best, and banning one of the best countries in the game mode is just not really a good way to do that. But I do think that some people's interests are starting to wane in the World Cup, because you also have people going, oh, why should I sign up? Or why should we sign up for the tournament when Japan is just going to win everything? We're just going to get stomped by them. And, well, the way it is now, honestly, for Japan, even if they just took their top 50 players who are like, I don't know, I think it's like the top, the number 50 player in Japan is like number 70 something or something. If you took like 6 random players from the Japanese top 50 and threw them into a Taiko World Cup team, they'd probably still end up winning the tournament, or at least getting top 3. And that's a pretty terrifying thing, because even in teams like Canada or Taiwan or even Hong Kong, they really can't afford to switch out any of their players, because it's just the reality of it is we just don't have that many players to play in the World Cup setting. Meanwhile, Japan has an abundance of players for that. So I'm not sure how to fix that.
They literally had a tournament to choose who was going to be on the Taiko World Cup for their TWC team for Japan, because they only had the top 100 global Japan players do this. It goes to show that there's something going on here. But I had a thought about this a while ago. I know we as people want to be really accepting and really we try to be fair as best we can, right? But there's clearly an advantage that they have, and that's just overall skill and time that they had. They've had the game way before the rest of the world did, and I don't know. It's one of those things. But if I had to think about some sort of suggestion, which this is completely isolating them, and you can all shoot me down if you wish, just have a separate tournament for just them and have that streamed, and maybe that'll get more views on TWC. I don't know.
Well, they kind of do that already, don't they, with the Japan World or Japan Cup?
Yeah, the qualification cup to the TWC you just mentioned. It's pretty much the same, right?
Can I just say something here? Because, well, to be honest, I think that in reality, even if Japan was banned, It's kind of this weird situation in Taiko where there's basically different tiers for a lot of the different countries. Like the skill level for most of the countries are actually radically different. Like you have Japan in one tier, then the next tier, or just speaking from last year, you had like Taiwan and Canada, and then in another tier down, you have like Hong Kong, South Korea. This is last year, by the way. This year, I'm not sure, and it may be completely different. But if you get rid of Japan from the World Cup, it's not going to be a closer fight for. It's not really going to be any closer because the skill levels of the teams are just radically different already, and eliminating Japan is really going to fix that.
Maybe another thing that could be a solution, because I'm pretty into the tournament scene when it comes down to catch the beat. I've been hosting a few tournaments in the past, and I've noticed that the community-made tournaments aren't really stimulated too much by the actual tournament's OC staff team, let's just say. Maybe a fix would be to have a few separate tournaments, community-made tournaments, let's just say, with Taiko teams being able to participate in the same regard as in TWC, but maybe not allowing Japan, for example, which would indeed be a weird solution. But I think another alternate solution to that being is that it wouldn't be national-based or anything, and just have these kind of tournaments also give out badges and the same kind of awards as the current TWC, since this is definitely becoming a problem, I do notice. And you telling me that the top 50 of Japan is pretty much top 70 global, that's a very scary thought we haven't even seen in Catch the Beat, which was also dominated by South Korea for the longest time.
Yeah, but you still run into the problem, right? It's called the World Cup, as in like
yeah,
the best of the best is like, even though they dominate everyone, they still have a right to do that because it's Japan, right? Like,
Definitely, yeah.
sure, they have the game before and everything, but it's a World Cup. You can't really ban a country unless they've done something wrong.
Yeah, and like I've said before, even if you ban Japan, it's not going to make the matches any closer. What's going to end up happening is if, let's say last year Japan was banned from that and Japan didn't exist or something, it would have just been a fight for first between Canada and Taiwan, with the other teams basically left in the dust. Now, that being said, this year it might be different, but I don't think that would really solve much. You're just going to have different teams consistently at the top instead.
He's absolutely right, because the whole skill gap sort of thing, there's obviously going to be someone dominating. If you look at the Smash Brothers scene, the only people that dominate are the gods of quote unquote. But those are like the top 6 players, and they always win the tournament. You can't ban them for being a god, and people have, believe me. But the dominating players is to be expected, obviously, right? Honestly, it's just down to time. It really is, because Canada, in all sense of it, just shot out of nowhere last year. Our skill was significantly better than the year prior, and we managed to take 3rd. So it's just down to time, and maybe eventually, highly unlikely if they keep up what they're doing, but maybe eventually through time, Japan might be dethroned. Don't know why, but like, you remember last year, the finals map pool bracket, Japan didn't practice it until an hour prior to the match. If they keep up some sort, and I'm not firing shots here, I'm just saying, like, if they don't practice, eventually someone else who's determined enough, who practices enough, will catch up. That's just how I see it.
Well, I want to bring it back to the whole map pool thing, because I think it's an interesting topic. The map selectors are in an interesting position, because I think the way they look at it, right? If they had the same map pool as they did last year, let's just say theoretically, and everyone was just as strong as this year, right? You'd be in a really strange position, because if you stream Japan, they're just gonna 5-0 every team like they do now, but they just do it with so much ease, and so they try to combat that with harder maps. But you can't really change the outcome, because think like what you just said, they practiced the finals map pool an hour before. Like, Japan is gonna win. Well, I mean, like, in the sense of, if they're given the map pool and they practice, they're obviously gonna have the same amount of chance as everyone else is to win, right? But they're still gonna win, because no matter what, unless you make them sight read everything, they can still practice the map, they can still memorize it just like every other team, right? So I think the map selectors, to try and change how that is, I guess, give more other teams a better chance, is to just up the difficulty. And do you guys like that? Do you guys like how difficult the maps are? Like, I know from a spectator point of view, it's a lot more entertaining than last year. Like, sorry, you can go.
Sorry. Okay. Just straight up answering your question. I honestly believe that them upping the difficulty in the style that they have done was a good decision. It did stomp a lot of players, and if they found a way to balance that, it would be perfect. But the way that they've done it, I have never seen so much improvement in my personal skill, and I think a lot of other players can agree. We've now adapted to a different style of mapping, and 1-6 were rarely seen in the ranked series 2 years ago. Now they're all over the place, and it's all about how the game changes. Right? We all get better through different specific styles, and TWC is one way to enforce that new style, and people are improving because of it. So the way that they've changed the map pools, I believe, is actually doing the players more benefit with the right mindset.
Oh, just going back to the point about it kind of evening the playing field against Japan, I think it actually makes it worse, because if you look at the MP link for the match against Poland, they had some maps where, or one map in particular, which is Point Zero, which is probably the most difficult technical map of the pool, other than maybe IX. And all three members of Japan assessed the map with a perfect 3 million score, which is the absolute maximum that you can get for the map. While Poland had players who had, like, I think it was around 40 plus misses on that side. And if you look at the match history overall in the group stages, I think there are a grand total of 4 matches which were not complete clean sweeps, and 2 of those matches were just 4-1s.
Yeah,
and compared to last, oh yeah,
I'm not quite sure. I'm just pointing it out. I guess we'll continue, please.
From what I remember, there was a 4-3, a 4-3, a 4-1, and a 4-1 this year. But even if you look at the matches last year, there was at the very least a lot more variety. There were still 2 tiebreakers, but there were a lot of matches that went 4-2, 4-1, and I'm just not sure that really just makes it more fair for the lower seed teams. Because in all honesty, it seems like it's gone way worse.
And that there is a lot to be said about that, because if you talk about the lower skilled bracket areas, or even group stage, right? The maps are supposed to be low enough combo that accuracy is the huge playing gap, and you don't have to have, well, used to, you don't have to have huge amount of skill in order to win a match. You just have to have good accuracy, and people can train that. And that's what gave people at group stage a chance to beat other players, because you couldn't really beat it with pure skill, and the fact that the other player is just choking so badly on a single map, and the one team just has the ability to play one map and another team doesn't. Both teams had the ability to play a map in group stages 1 or 2 years ago, and they both had technically equal chances to win that, because pretty much every team could SC those maps. And that's the difference between then and now.
Also, I'd like to bring up something that I just remembered, is that last year Japan actually did lose a point against Spain in the group stages. And that was the only time until the finals where
until us, boy!
yeah, until we took those 2 points. And I think that just, I don't know, I think that just says a lot about the pools, is that they actually did manage to lose a point last year. And this year, like, not to discredit the teams that they faced, because all the teams are generally pretty strong comparatively, but Japan just had no chance against Japan this year. And well, I mean, it's always good to cater to the top seeds, because they're probably the ones who are going to be moving on in the tournament, makes for more interesting matches, but the level of the map pools are just really way too high for the low seeds, the mid seeds. Even some of the top seeds were struggling in it. So yeah, I'm not sure I like the direction that's going.
Maybe it's a build-up process that will be better, to have these easier maps from previously in the earlier stages, and then move on to the current way the maps are picked for the latter stages, let's just say, because then pretty much the creme de la creme is the only are the only players that are left, and that would definitely be preferable to either view on stream and to give you guys, for example, a chance against Japan, as Rama mentioned earlier on, because I do see that there's well, the two standpoints are the maps are either too hard for the teams that have played in the group stage, as you're saying, Janitor, and the second is that Rama is saying that the maps are a way of maybe combating Japan because you can practice them, and if Japan doesn't, they might end up losing. But it might be better to have a mixture of those two, to have these easier maps in the group stage for the lower seed people being able to actually play them, and then as moving on to the finals, actually like increase the map difficulty as a normal tournament would, and have these crazy 1/6 maps or these slider maps, whatever it is that is really difficult in Taiko. And that's just what I'm trying to get to here, and I see as a solution, I guess, to maybe alter the dominance of Japan just a little bit.
Exactly like the points earlier, because you're right. Honestly, when changes are made to major tournaments, especially ranked seasons, I don't know, some people understand League and Overwatch and whatnot. If a major change is made during a ranked season or before a ranked season, this is just charting down history, right? And people will learn from this year that there may be more good that comes out of this year than bad, or maybe more bad that comes out of this year than good. But at the very least, we will have learned something for next year, because this was a major change. And I don't know. So as far as I see, only good can come out of this for later tournaments.
That's a good thing to hear, definitely. But yeah,
Are you guys?
Sorry.
I had two questions for them. Are you guys going to what do you guys expect in the upcoming map pool? And are you excited for the new maps?
Was about to ask the same, yeah.
Well, group stage, as you mentioned earlier, was basically the pool of 1/6 maps and technical maps, like, you know, stuff like Point Zero and IX are honestly really, really surprising to see in the group stage, because they're honestly pretty difficult. And round of 16 was the SV pool with stuff like that Chameleon map, which has a really long name, which I don't remember, and stuff like Stronghold, which has a lot of SV gimmicks, FKS, Hidden Hard Rock in the Fremont pool, and but one thing that we haven't seen yet are speed maps, because the highest BPM map I think was like 243 on one of the DT pools in round of 16, and I am fully expecting there to be a speed pool in the near future. Like, I'm not sure when, I'm not sure how hard it's going to be, but there's definitely going to be one, rest assured.
And which teams would it favor then? Like, which teams are good at these high BPM maps? Especially?
Definitely Japan, but that's already a given because they're pretty much favored on any kind of map pool. Taiwan also has some very, very strong speed players. I'd like to say that Canada wouldn't be too bad at it either, because we also have some pretty good speed players. In general, the same teams that we mentioned earlier, like Hong Kong, South Korea, Canada, Taiwan, even teams like France, which has players like Ikoro, who is, I don't know how he functions. He's basically a robot. And you would probably see those teams excel in these kind of maps.
All right. And Caleb, you had a second question?
Yeah. Are you guys excited for the map pool, or are you more on the scared side?
I think scared is more accurate right now. Well, at the very least, it seems like the scaling is going down a little bit, because the jump from group stage last year to this year was like 1.5, and I think the average star rating actually went down this time because of SV maps generally being not rated very properly and other underrated maps in the pool. So I'm hoping that it doesn't get progressively harder, like comparatively to the other map pools, and that it has like okay scaling, so it doesn't suddenly jump up another full star rating for the next pool. Yeah, that's just what I'm hoping for.
Well, I guess like happy nerves are a good thing to have. I mean, it's a tournament after all. It's definitely playing on your nerves a lot, but I do think you guys have a very fair shot at having a very high position in this tournament. Nidoking actually mentioned you guys to maybe be the only team to have a chance against Japan. You guys being good at Hard Rock. So yeah, I do hope there's a bright future ahead of you guys, and you will do this TWC very well. So yeah, last question for you guys. What do you expect to achieve this tournament? What kind of position? What place? Will you be getting them badges?
What I'd like is to, at the very least, not to sound sinister, but get some revenge on Taiwan, because last year we did go to tiebreaker in the finals, and we did end up losing to them and losing out on second place. And what I'd just like is to maybe have a bit of a rematch and kind of just reclaim the victory. I'm honestly not sure about our placement this year because, like I said earlier, a lot of the teams have gotten a lot stronger compared to last year. So anything can happen. Taiwan is probably getting top 3 definitely because they're a ridiculously strong team and they don't have Japan in their bracket. So yeah, other than that, I'm not sure.
Honestly, any team can be defeated through proper strategy, but I mean, Japan is just like, no, we're just gonna FC and double S every map, so don't worry about it. But that's honestly what it can come down to. If you strategize your picks and your bans properly, a match can be taken just by that alone. As long as people can play the maps properly and you can play your strengths against their weaknesses or all those kind of little tournament gimmicks, matches can be won that don't require massive amounts of skill. It's just about playing smart sometimes.
And you expect that you'll make how many plays then? I guess to summarize.
I mean,
go on. Oh no, it's happening.
Obviously, we're just gonna aim as high as we can, right? Like if by some miracle, if we could take first, obviously we're fighting for first. But if we get second or third or fourth, we'll take it. We're happy about that. So as long as we did our best, we're happy about that. So
good to hear that you're going to be combating the other teams as much as you can. Won't be holding you off for your training too long anymore. Let's just say, what are your expectations?
I don't know. It depends on how the map pool turns out. I'm just waiting for map pool. Map pool will decide everything.
And
How about you,
Vladyushko?
I hope at least third, but I'm not so sure.
All right.
Yeah, that's it for me.
Well, let's just hope for the badges then, I guess. I mean, those badges will definitely look nice on your profile. Some of you will probably already have a badge from previous year.
I mean,
yeah.
It's better than the barf green one, but I mean, I'm rocking with. No, we're happy with that one though.
Oh, there's not a whole lot of room to go down after that. And speaking of badges, I still haven't gotten my LMS badge.
Feels bad.
One day.
One day.
The high demand for badges will always be something I know, but yeah. I think I'm gonna wrap it up then. This podcast has been going on for 55 minutes by now. Thank you guys for joining us today. It was definitely interesting to hear your thoughts on everything happening in the TWC. So I thank you very dearly for everything.
Yeah, thanks for that. And good luck in your upcoming matches.
Definitely. We'll be rooting for you guys. So that was pretty much it. Oh, sorry.
Oh.
I did it again, the Canadian way.
It's a virus.
Yeah, I've been affected. Anyway, for everybody who's been viewing, thank you for watching this. This will be on YouTube in a few minutes at the Canadian players here. I'm not live streaming this actually quite yet. We'll be doing that in future podcasts, hopefully. But for everybody who's been watching for the entire video, thank you for watching, and we'll be having some other guests next week, also regarding the Taiko World Championships, most definitely. For now, this was Team Canada and Sartin and Kawoop, and we'll be seeing you next week, most definitely. So thanks for watching, and bye-bye. Definitely subscribe to the channel if you liked the content and the interview. Bye-bye.